You know, if you've ever bought anything online, pretty much anywhere, chances are you've used Stripe, probably without even realizing it. Yeah. It's this invisible engine that powers millions of businesses. We're talking from tiny startups all the way up to giants like Amazon and Google. So let's get into it. This story is just incredible. And it all started with this one simple idea. Well, deceptively simple. The promise was this. You could turn any website into a real functioning business with just 7 lines of code. Think about that. No begging banks, no mountains of paperwork, no waiting around for weeks. Nope, just code. So that's the big question we're tackling today, right? How in the world did that simple promise build a $95 billion empire? How did two brothers from Ireland basically build the financial backbone of the internet? The answer? Well, it's a total masterclass in strategy. All right, to really get why Stripe was so revolutionary, you first have to understand the problem they were solving. And to do that, we've got to go back to the beginning. We need to meet the founders, Patrick and John Collison, and feel the frustration that honestly sparked their entire billion-dollar idea. Okay, so this slide right here, this pretty much sums it up. This was the world before Stripe. Back in 2010, if you were a developer or a small business and you wanted to accept payments online, oh man, it was an absolute nightmare. We're talking weeks, literally weeks of phone calls, trying to get a special merchant account, drowning in paperwork. It was a mess. And Stripe's promise, it was to just blow all that up, replace that whole mountain of complexity with one single beautiful tool, their API. And the guys behind this, get this, 2 prodigies. The Collison brothers, Patrick and John, they taught themselves how to code, sold their first startup for $5 million when they were still just teenagers. Then they go off to MIT and Harvard, and while they're building their own little side projects, they just keep hitting the same wall over and over again. They realized, wait a minute, with all this amazing innovation happening, getting paid online is still just fundamentally broken. So what do? They dropped out, jumped into Y Combinator with a prototype, and almost immediately got backing from huge names like Peter Thiel, Sequoia, and even Elon Musk. So that personal frustration they felt, it became the very core of their strategy. See, Stripe didn't just have a better product. That's not the whole story. They had a completely different way of thinking about who their customer was. While all the other payment companies were busy taking VPs out for steak dinners, Stripe was focused on a totally different group of people. They basically pioneered what we now call a developer-first strategy. And the idea is super simple, but also brilliant. They realized the people who were actually building the websites and apps, the developers, they were the ones who felt this pain the most. They were the ones stuck dealing with the terrible old systems. So Stripe made a simple choice. We're going to build for them. They are our number one customer. And this led to this genius bottom-up growth model. It worked just like this. Imagine you're a developer, you're super frustrated, you stumble across Stripe's website, and their documentation is beautiful. It's clear, it's easy to understand, you can plug it in and get it working in like under an hour. To a developer in 2010, that felt like actual magic. And just like that, boom. That developer is now Stripe's biggest fan inside their company. They become the internal champion. Stripe didn't even need a traditional sales team at first. It basically became their mantra. Win the builders and you win the market. That one insight, that simple idea, if the people who actually build things love your product, you're going to win. That was the key. That's what unlocked their insane early growth, landing huge customers like Lyft and Shopify. Okay, so they conquered the US startup scene, but that was just the beginning, right? To really achieve their massive mission, Stripe had to go global. And that's a whole different ballgame. It meant they had to evolve from just being a neat payment tool into being a full-blown global financial infrastructure.
And here's the thing, this is a huge hurdle. Payments aren't the same everywhere, not even close. Every single country has its own banks, its own crazy regulations, its own currencies, its own way that people like to pay. It's an absolute maze of local complexity.
So what did Stripe do? This is where their genius really shines. They didn't just expand, they localized, intelligently. They didn't try to force the American way of doing things on the rest of the world. Nope. They went to China and integrated Alipay and WeChat Pay. They went to India, integrated UPI. Europe, SEPA transfers. They did the incredibly hard, unglamorous work of building partnerships and handling all the local compliance, so their users, the developers, never had to think about it. And this is the point where they started to move beyond just payments. They started building a whole ecosystem. First up, Stripe Atlas.
Now, this sounds kind of simple, but I promise you, it was revolutionary. It lets an entrepreneur from anywhere, say someone in Nigeria or Brazil, set up a US company in just a few days, just like that. And instantly, that gives them access to US banking, to Silicon Valley venture capital, to the entire US market. A total game changer.
Then came Stripe Connect. This thing literally became the engine for what we call the platform economy. I mean, think about a marketplace like Shopify or an app like Lyft. They have to do something really complicated. Take one payment from a customer, but then split it up and pay out money to thousands of different sellers or drivers. Connect handles that ridiculously complex job automatically. And they weren't content to just stay online. Nope. Next was Stripe Terminal, which brought that same beautiful simplicity to the world of physical, in-person retail. For any business that had both an online store and a brick-and-mortar shop, this was huge. It meant they could finally bring all their sales data, online and offline, into one single unified system. So powerful.
So you see what they were doing, right? The core philosophy behind all of these new products was this. Don't just be a part of the transaction. Own the entire workflow. From the moment a company is born with Atlas, to handling subscriptions, to doing taxes, own the whole thing. That's how you build a moat. That's how you become indispensable.
Okay, so what are the big takeaways here? What can we all learn from this incredible story? In this last part, let's break it down. Let's distill Stripe's journey into a clear, actionable playbook that any of us can learn from. First off, let's just look at the numbers, because the results speak for themselves. The growth was, it was just staggering. They went from an $18 million valuation in 2012 to becoming a $9 billion unicorn in just 4 years. And then they peaked at an absolutely mind-blowing $95 billion in 2021. And look, that valuation wasn't just speculative hype. It was backed by absolutely massive scale. Today, Stripe processes over $640 billion in payments every single year. At that point, you're not just a tech company anymore. You are a piece of global economic infrastructure. So here it is, the Stripe playbook. Lesson 1, build for the person who actually implements the product, not just the person who signs the check. Lesson 2, take on immense complexity, the stuff nobody else wants to do, and make that your competitive advantage. 3, don't just solve one tiny problem, own the entire workflow around it. 4, remember that global ambition requires deep, deep local expertise. And finally, the thing that ties it all together, have a mission that's bigger than just your product. And for Stripe, that mission was there from the very beginning. It was never just about processing payments. Their mission was to increase the GDP of the internet. How huge and ambitious is that? And that North Star guided every single decision they made. It pushed them to build tools that removed barriers and unlocked economic opportunity for everyone, everywhere. And that really leaves us with one final thought. Stripe looked at this world of insane, frustrating financial complexity, and they found a way to boil it down to its simplest essence, to those 7 lines of code. So the question to leave you with is this. What's the big, messy, complex system in your world that's just waiting for its own 7 lines of code?